In a neon glow, circuits and code, cryptos whisper secrets on the digital road. Newsweek drops the top three. Listen to the
This is Bug Bounty Newsweek, a refuge for those who walk on the edge of exploits, bypasses, and remote code execution, but also for those who feel the responsibility to protect information in an increasingly vulnerable world. Every week, we reveal real vulnerabilities, techniques that make a difference, and signals that could guide or bury your next hunt. I'm Cryptos, and this is the voice that accompanies those who search through firewalls for what others don't want you to see. Welcome back to the bunker, Bounty Soldiers. Episode 50. Half 100 broadcasts from the trenches of ethical hacking, and we still have the acid running through our veins and Burp Suite open in the other tab. This week, the ecosystem gave us no rest. Google fired the guy who showed them the future in open source. HackerOne triagers keep playing God with the informative button. A researcher found a cryptominer living rent-free on his VPS for months. And AI keeps running kernel CTFs, like it's just another Tuesday. We've got drama, we've got money, we've got an IDOR that cost PayPal almost $9,000, and we've got the underlying question that isn't going away. Who controls the narrative when the machine starts finding what humans took years to see? Settle in, pour yourself something strong. Episode 50 of Bug Bounty Newsweek starts now. Main topic: the layoff that predicted the future. Google, agents, and corporate fear of being disrupted by its own people. Justin Ponelt spent almost 7 years at Google. In his spare time or not, he built a Google Workspace CLI. It went viral, has sewn on Hacker News, thousands of GitHub stars, thousands of real users within days. Directors and leaders at Google were asking what they could learn from the tool. 2 months later, Google fired him. The formal excuse: legal grilled him over using Google's logo and brand colors in the CLI's GitHub repos. The real excuse, according to Ponelt himself: Workspace and certain leaders were afraid of being disrupted, not by his CLI, specifically by what AI agents represent for the entire Workspace business. The detail that closes the loop with textbook corporate irony: 2 days before they fired him, Google announced at Cloud Next that an official Workspace CLI was on the way. Built, probably, on the same idea he'd already validated for free, publicly, with the community as beta testers. The takeaway here isn't, poor guy, they screwed him over. It's this: we're at the exact moment large corporations are discovering that their own employees, people with deep knowledge of internal systems, now have, thanks to AI tools, the ability to build in a weekend what used to take an entire team, a 2-year roadmap. And when that employee does it on their own, without asking permission, without going through committee, the result isn't gratitude. It's panic. This isn't the first time we've seen this pattern in security and open source tooling. Someone internal finds an elegant solution to a real problem. The community adopts it faster than the internal bureaucratic process can absorb. And the institutional response is to crush it instead of integrating it. The difference now is speed. This cycle used to take years. With AI agents writing code at the speed they write, the cycle compresses to weeks, and corporate structures, designed for friction and control, have no antibodies for that speed. For us, the people who make a living finding cracks in other people's systems, this is a direct lesson about who controls the risk narrative. Google didn't frame this as a security threat. They framed it as a brand and legal problem. It's the same pattern we see when a bug bounty program closes a critical finding as informative, to avoid admitting the business side got caught off guard. Legal and compliance language, time and again, functions as a reputational damage control tool, not as actual technical risk management. Kyle Tobener sums it up bluntly in the comments. A defense startup with serious restrictions on interacting with external AI tools used Ponelt CLI as critical infrastructure. The whole company used it. That's not a side project. That's a piece of infrastructure Google decided was more convenient to destroy than to integrate, at least until they could slap their own stamp on it. The open question for the feed: how many internal tools, built by a single person with frontier AI access, are quietly running on top of critical infrastructure right now, without the corporation hosting them having any idea, their own employee already solved, for free, the problem the official roadmap is still sketching on a PowerPoint slide? Weekly drama. This week, the ecosystem spat fire from multiple angles. Let's run through the mess. HackerOne's worst triager. Russell Rana, at 0x Russell Rana, went to war accusing H1, analyst, Anya of being one of the platform's worst triagers. The case: he reported an OAuth misconfiguration escalating to full account takeover with zero user interaction, and it got closed as informative, with an explanation the reporter himself calls weak. The community's response was sharp. Suzuki dropped the key fact. Generally, OAuth misconfiguration leads to 1-click ATO, not 0-click, casting doubt on whether the finding was as critical as it was sold, or whether the triage was once again lazy. The eternal bug bounty dilemma: who's right when nobody publishes the full report? Anthropic blocking offensive researchers. Chomsky threw a direct punch, accusing Anthropic of punishing an offensive researcher for publishing quality work, questioning whether it's okay for the company to act as the world's default moral arbiter, indiscriminately blocking people working on disruptive technology. The underlying argument, valid beyond personal allegiances, is that this same research, once public, also arms defenders. Classic AI versus offensive security drama, and it's only going to escalate. Joseph Thacker. Backdoor and cryptominer for months, and Claude never saw it. Res Zero, Joseph Thacker, himself confessed he found a backdoor and cryptominer on his main VPS installed for months. He asked Claude about high CPU usage, about 10 times, and it never caught it. His advice to the community: check your servers, and if you're running a hackbot setup with ephemeral workers. Even better, the compromised VPS was precisely the long-running one he'd used since before the AI era. Important fine print: AI won't save you if you don't rotate your infrastructure. That's this week's drama harvest. Bug Bounty remains the neighborhood where everyone knows everyone, and everyone fights in public. News. AdvancedSec openly shopping for 0 days. AdvancedSec posted a direct call to researchers, offering to buy 0 days for SonicWall SSL VPN, SonicWall OS 7, NSA, Citrix NetScaler, Palo Alto VPN, Pulse VPN, Fortinet SSL VPN, multi-platform LPE, RCE, Win, Mac, Linux, MS Office, and any IoT device and routers. Contact via email and wire. Hashtags: #0day number, 0day attack number, bug bounty. Well placed to land on the radar of anyone looking to sell. The vulnerability grey market is as alive as ever. The question is always who that acquisition ends up serving. Axela discloses $4.67 exploit via secret network. Axela confirmed an incident affecting assets bridged from secret network with roughly $4.67 in tokens taken. Key detail: the vulnerability wasn't in Axela's core protocol. It was isolated to the ICS 2.0 bridge smart contract of the Cosmos IBC connection between Secret and Axela. SNP connections disabled immediately. Emergency committee activated. Exchanges and authorities contacted. Another reminder that in cross-chain land, your security is only as strong as the least audited bridge you touch. Polymarket, the NSA, and a headline that deflates with context. Polymarket dropped the bomb. NSA confirms Mythos breached almost all of our classified systems, not in weeks, but in hours. Sounds apocalyptic, but the platform's own community context grounded it fast. The quote comes from an Economist article where Senator Warner relays what NSA General Rudd told him privately, not a direct public NSA confirmation. Same old lesson for this section. The viral headline: and the primary source almost never match. Verify before you panic. Vitalik Buterin launches an AI de-anonymization experiment. In response to claims that AI text analysis would make online anonymity unsustainable, Vitalik put his own skin in the game. He revealed that at some point this decade, he wrote a published document of medium importance for Ethereum under a different name, and estimates there are between 200 and 2,000 documents in the ecosystem of equal or greater importance that he also didn't sign. The challenge is simple: find it. It'll be interesting to see if the community can attribute authorship using stylometry and language models alone. Pwn.ai autonomously captures a flag on Google's kernel CTF. Pwn.ai used a novel mitigation evasion technique to fully autonomously solve a Google kernel CTF target with the most aggressive hardening available. The agent came back with root execution and a clean flag capture. Every time we see this against real, hardened kernels in CTFs, the ceiling of what an agent can automate in exploitation moves a little higher. Integrity closes its June challenge. 43 hackers found the correct solution, 10 wrote write-ups. Swag prizes delivered. Nothing groundbreaking, but the data point that matters. The steady cadence of public challenges remains one of the best ways to train bug hunting muscle without depending on private programs. The LAC Women's Cyber Team represents Latin America and the Caribbean in Dublin. The LAC Women's Cyber Team travels to Ireland to represent the region at the Women's International Cybersecurity Challenge 2026 WIC 2026. The team, organised by LAC Women's Cyber, is made up of Jelen Castro, Murillo, Costa Rica; Ileana Maricel, Barrio Nuevo, Argentina; Andrea Prieto, Romero, Costa Rica; Paola Gerrig, Reyes, Peru; Venezuela; Vivian Peña, Hurtado, Colombia; Malin Baltazar, Norabuena, Peru; Ana Vanacker, Argentina. 7 competitors representing 5 countries: Argentina, Colombia, Costa Rica, Peru, Venezuela, at one of the most important stages for female talent in cybersecurity worldwide. Good news for the regional scene: representation in international CTFs keeps growing, and it earns its place in this episode. Inspiring Bounty of the Week. Edison P. Bug Hunter. Second-degree connection. First-degree patience. Found an IDOR on a private program. Names. Emails. Unauthorized access to other customers' info. The classic. Change one ID in the URL, and the system opens the neighbor's door without checking your ID. The target wasn't just anyone. PayPal Incorporated, via HackerOne, deposited $8,632 USD into his account. Fast validation, fast fix, fair bounty. The system working the way it's supposed to: someone looks, someone finds, someone pays. 211 likes, 6 comments, the legion of hunters celebrating in the comments, while everyone else keeps farming dead subdomains. The lesson, as always, repeated until exhaustion: you don't need a government. Lab 0 day. Sometimes it's an ID that shouldn't be guessable, and someone with their eyes open at 5 a.m. Schedule. The calendar is a minefield of dates. Here's the map of what's coming. Friday 6/26, 7 p.m, Neuquén, Rio Negro. Eco Groups. Eco Party. Drops reverse shell from a misconfigured PostgreSQL, led by Maximiliano, Max Judas Priest Espinoza, Uncoma Computer Science Faculty, Room 111. For those in Patagonia who want to see a naked PostgreSQL live. Saturday, 6/27, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. online. ThreatX Security runs a hands-on API security lab with Valeria Soledad Balanza. Weak authentication, data exposure, endpoint hardening. Via Meetup. Free. Link in the first comment of the original post. Until the 29th of June, 2026, 11:59 p.m. UTC. Integrity opens the Leaky Jar June Bonus Challenge by Proxy Nomad. Find the vuln, win vouchers. 6 random winners get a limited edition shirt. Leakyjar.integrity.io. July 2, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Cest Berlin. Bugcrowd organizes the Hive Exchange, Berlin, alongside AWS and Global Dots. Guest speaker, Krevit Zero. Defenders on one side, hunters on the other. Same problem. Until 7/9, registration, 7/10/20 virtual event, 8/4. Live Awards, Las Vegas. Mercado Libre returns with the MHE 8.8 Unreal DEFCON. This time it's not individual. Report vulns, score points for your flag. Your country competes against the rest. Live ceremony from the Suite Hotel Rio, exclusive to those already at DEFCON. Forms. Dr. Rakba. 7/7. DEFCON. 34 Las Vegas. Drop. At Drop'n 0W. Returns to the Bug Bounty Village for a second consecutive year, with the AI Nightmare, hacking at 0 hour. Meanwhile, Electronic Cats already has hardware ready, Marauder, Magspoof, Canbus, Modbus, sub-GHz for pickup at the event. The Mecca is gearing up. Everything leads to Las Vegas in August. The desert's going to be full of people with badges and bad intentions. Tools. This week's arsenal. Straight from the bunker. Decepticon. Purple A-Lab. Decepticon. Autonomous hacking agent for Red Team. 4K stars. 865 forks. 13 active contributors. The era of autonomous agents attacking infrastructure keeps escalating. This isn't a scanner. It's an AI orchestrator making offensive decisions. For those of us already using LLMs as co-pilot, this points straight at autopilot. Tricorn. Crocella 0. 129. Tricorn. A Fedora remix focused on pen testing and purple hat tooling. Small repo. 4 stars. 1 fork. But the proposal of a pen test ready Fedora, instead of the eternal Kali, Parrot, is worth a look for anyone wanting an alternative distro. Kaido V0. 57. The proxy we've been using as a lightweight burp alternative adds WebSocket support in replay. Now you can create a WS session, set the initial HTTP request, and edit, resend frames on the fly without leaving the replay flow. If you work real-time APIs or internal chats, this closes a gap that used to force you to jump to another tool. Jaceman Radar. Jaceman.esh. Automated domain recon, free. Scans a target's URLs and shows historical scan status. Postman.com, Amazon.com, Dub.co are already in the public example list. Useful for quick passive recon before bringing out the heavy artillery. 4OSP3L, main app hacking checklist. Personal mobile, main app hacking checklist. Shared with the community. 115 likes, 16 RTs. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but someone else's checklist always reveals an angle you missed. Uplink. The Latino movement keeps migrating, and with it comes the need to rebuild a contact network from scratch in new markets. This week's headline case. Sebastian H. Panagazzi, 18 years in cybersecurity, started as a junior analyst operating security products, and today leads teams at a multinational telecom. Almost 2 years ago, he migrated from Argentina to Spain, and what was hardest to rebuild wasn't his professional experience, it was his network. Today, he put out an open call to the Spanish cybersecurity community, connecting with researchers, ethical hackers, technical leaders, and event organizers, with the concrete goal of having a prior connection before running into them at a conference or meetup. You can reach him via LinkedIn. The lesson that applies to the entire LATAM ecosystem: technical migration, visa, job, infrastructure, is the easy part. The professional network you spent a decade building in your home country doesn't travel with you in your suitcase. You have to rebuild it from day one, actively, without waiting for it to happen on its own. Videos plus papers. Technical material for the week. For those who want more than a 280 character thread. WSJ investigation. How Hackers Found a Backdoor in the American Living Room by Robert McMillan. Comcast uncovered that cheap consumer devices are arriving in the US with pre-installed backdoors, used by state actors to build residential proxy networks and mask traffic. The IoT supply chain remains security's ugly duckling. XSS payloads Auth0. Exploiting Auth0's default configurations in XSS attacks by Alex Brown via Eltum. Auth0 defaults as an XSS attack surface for those integrating third-party IDPs and assuming it comes secure out of the box. CVE 2026258060. OpenClinic GA, a chain starting at reflected XSS and escalating to RCE by Partawave. A good example of how a minor vuln becomes full compromise when chained well. Reverse skill. github.com/Xiaozuya520/reverse-skill. An AI skill pack focused on reverse engineering, APK reverse analysis, static IDA, JS frontend RE, firmware, EDR evasion, exploitation. Over 20 subskills, 2K plus stars. RE automation via agents keeps gaining ground for better or worse, as the post itself says. Pliny the Liberator Gloss Soap Tray. A complete research platform for generating synthetic languages, translating them, rendering native writing systems, and now, the part that matters, using that capability gap as a vector toward monitoring pipelines. Offensive research on how AI-generated language can evade moderation. Hack Luke. Are bug bounties cooked? Luke Stevens publishes the week's uncomfortable blog. Is the rise of AI-generated reports killing triage in Bug Bounty? Mixed reactions in the thread. Necessary reading for anyone who makes a living off this. El Margo Burp Suite Organizer. Short video showing how to use Burp's Organizer feature to document finding reproduction. With real feedback from a triager thanking him for the clarity. Simple practice. Real impact on validation speed. By Sepa YouTube channel. In Spanish this time. Talking with Ignacio Spampato. Cybersecurity streaming. Not for hackers, but for regular folks. With humor. Integrity times 0. Exploiting web cache, poisoning vulnerabilities. Educational article. Co-written by Integrity and Researcher Zero. The premise is simple and harsh. Most hunters dodge cache poisoning because it looks intimidating, but a single misconfigured cache layer can regularly turn into a critical finding, even on heavily tested targets. Step-by-step guide to identifying cache layers, detecting keyless inputs, and chaining them toward real impact. Recommended technical reading to add a vector most people leave in the drawer. OpenAI GPT-5 solves a 3-year mystery doctor. Deria Unutmaz used GPT-5 Pro to reinterpret results from an immunology experiment that had gone unexplained for 3 years. The model identified the key mechanisms on its own. Not bug bounty, but it sets a trend. Frontier LLMs are already doing real scientific discovery, not just glorified autocomplete. Worth keeping on the radar, that same analytical capability eventually transfers to code analysis and vuln triage. BugCrowd Executive Order on AI and Cybersecurity. A new US executive order establishes a voluntary 30-day pre-launch review for frontier AI models and orders CISA, Treasury, and DOJ to build a cybersecurity clearinghouse against AI-enabled cybercrime. BugCrowd CEO Dave Jerry sums it up well. Adversaries move faster than bureaucracy. Right strategic priority. Execution still in question. Final thoughts. Joseph Thacker, Res Zero, resurfaced a quote from Naval. If your success or failure is judged by other people, rather than by nature or free markets, you're playing a game, by the way. A reified and social one. And he proposed reading it through a bug bounty lens. It's worth sitting with that for a minute. There's no magic way out. Bug bounty will always have a social game component, because in the end, a company pays, not nature. But it's worth the discipline of not losing track of which is which. Document with irrefutable POC. Write the report so it doesn't depend on the reader's goodwill. And remember that the real free market of exploitation is what ultimately has your back, even if today's triager doesn't see it that way. And with that, we close episode number 50. 50 weeks of 0 days, questionable triages, ironic layoffs, and the uncomfortable certainty that the game changes faster than any of us can update our methodology. If you found something today worth keeping, a tool, a technique, a reflection that made you raise an eyebrow, share it. That's how community gets built. One report at a time, one mate at a time. Thanks for sticking with 50 episodes of this bilingual, cyberpunk, slightly unhinged experiment. All links mentioned are in the link tree, as always. See you in the next one. Keep hunting, keep documenting, and please check your servers. BugBountyNewsWeek, out.